Hi guys, I'm going to go over your review guide now so that way you can check your answers and be prepared fully for the test tomorrow. So make sure you're paying attention, pausing as you need, and double checking all of your work on this review guide. So it starts with question 1, which says, Santiago regularly buys strawberries from his local grocery store. In his last 3 trips to the store, he purchased 1 pound, 2 pounds, and 6 pounds of strawberries. He recorded his purchases in the graph by taking notes of the cost and the pounds of strawberries purchased. So here's his graph. Write an equation to determine the cost for the number of pounds of strawberries purchased. So what it wants us to do is write an equation from his points right here. So I have to pick 2 points, doesn't matter which one I pick, to be the points that I'm going to use to create my slope on the graph. So I'm going to pick just these 2 points down here. So my points that I picked were 1, 2.5, and 2, 5. So now I'm going to start by using my slope formula to calculate my slope, which is m equals the change in y over the change in x. Or we know that it is y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to do 5. Well, first I'm going to label my points. Sorry, I skipped a step. x1, y1, x2, y2. Now I'm going to plug it in. So since 5 is my y2, it goes first, minus 2.5, which is my y1, all over 2, which is my x2, minus 1, which is my x1. 5 minus 2.5 is 2.5. 2 minus 1 is 1. So 2.5 divided by 1 is just 2.5. So my slope is 2.5. Now I have to figure out what my y-intercept is. In order to do that, I've got to plug it into my slope-intercept form equation, which is y equals mx plus b. Okay, so I'm going to plug in 2.5 for m, and then I'm going to pick a point to plug in for my x and my y. I'm going to do 1 and 2.5 because I know that'll be really easy to multiply by. So I'm going to plug 2.5 in for x, for y because it's in the y spot, and 1 in for x because it's in the x spot. Okay, 2.5 times 1 is just 2.5, and then we're going to bring my 2.5 here down. So I have 2.5 equals 2.5 plus b. To figure out what b is, I need to solve. So center of my equation is equal sign. I'm going to get b by itself by subtracting 2.5 from each side. 2.5 minus 2.5 is 0. 2.5 minus 2.5 is 0. So my b is equal to 0, which means my equation is going to be y equals 2.5x plus 0, or if I simplify that, it's just 2.5x. So my equation for Santiago's line is y equals 2.5x. If we want to use the variables that he uses, it's c equals 2.5s because y is our cost and s is the number of strawberries we buy. Number of pounds of strawberries. All right, so now I'm going to scroll down to the second one. It wants me to select all the points that are on the line 4x plus 2y equals 12. So that means I have to plug my x and y and see if they're true for each of these points. So I'm going to start with a, 0, 3. And I'm going to do 4 times 0, because 0 is in the x spot. Remember, they're all x first, then y. So 4 times 0 plus 2 times 3 equals 12. 4 times 0 is 0. 2 times 3 is 6 equals 12. That's going to be 0 plus 6 is 6 equals 12. So I know that A is incorrect because 6 does not equal 12. So A is incorrect. So then let's move on to my next one. Let's do B. So that's 4 times 0 plus 2 times 6 equals 12. 4 times 0 is 0, plus 2 times 6 is 12, equals 12. So that means 12 equals 12 because 0 plus 12 is 12. Since that is correct, I know that B is a correct answer. All right, let's move on to my next one, 1 and 4. So I'm going to do 4 times 1 plus 2 times 4 equals 12. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 2 times 4 is 8, equals 12. 4 plus 8 is 12, equals 12. So that's correct. So C is also a correct answer. Now I'm going to do D, which is 4 and 1. So I'm going to do 4 times 4 plus 2 times 1 equals 12. Okay, 4 times 4 is 16, plus 2 times 1 is 2 equals 12. I can already tell, because 16 plus 2 is going to be way bigger, that this one is incorrect and that D is not a correct answer. So I'm going to cross D out here. So now I'm going to move on to E, which is 6 and 0. So I've got 4 times 6 plus 2 times 0 equals 12. 4 times 6 is 24, plus 2 times 0 is 0 equals 12. Well, 24 is never going to equal 12, so I know that E is also incorrect. So now I'm going to move on to my last one, which is 4 times 3 plus 2 times 0 equals 12. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 times 0 is 0. 12 plus 0 is 12. 12 does equal 12, so F is a correct answer as well. So my correct answers here are B, C, and F. All right, so then let's scroll down to my next one. It says the graph shows C, the amount of cereal in a box after D days. What is the slope of the line, and what does the slope mean in terms of cereal? So remember that our slope formula is M equals the change in Y over the change in X, or the rise over run. So I've got a point here, which is 24, and then I've got a point here, which is 21. So that means I'm going down 3, because from 24 to 21 is down 3, over 1. So then that means it's negative 3, because I'm going down, over 1. So that makes my slope negative 3. So what does that mean? Well, let's see. This is the amount of cereal in a box after D days, and it's in ounces. So it means I'm losing 3 ounces of cereal per day. Now I just spelled cereal way wrong. Hold on. Cereal. There we go. Okay, so I'm losing 3 ounces of cereal per day. What is the vertical intercept of the line? Remember, vertical intercept is another way of saying y-intercept. And what does it mean in terms of the box of 0? Well, our y-intercept is where it crosses here on y, or our vertical intercept, and that's 24. So our B is equal to 24. And what that means is that the box starts with 24 ounces of cereal. And ounces abbreviation is OZ, in case you're wondering. So the box starts with 24 ounces of 0. So our slope is negative 3, because we're losing 3 ounces a day, and we started with 24 ounces. If we wanted to write the equation for it, we don't have to, because it didn't ask me for it. But if we wanted to, we could have said y equals negative 3x plus 24, because by identifying the slope and the y-intercept, or vertical intercept, we pretty much identified the equation for this line. All right, moving down to my next one. It says, Bria and Miguel are co-presidents of the student council. They want to order t-shirts for the student council members. They are deciding between 2 companies, Daring Designs and ImageWorks, and want the cheapest one. Daring Designs has a $50 setup fee and charges $5 per shirt. The graph below shows ImageWorks. Okay, so this is ImageWorks. So now we have to figure out which company charges more per t-shirt, and how we know that, and which company they should choose. Okay? So we have to start by setting up our equation. So for each one. So let's start with Daring Designs. That's $50 setup fee and $5 per shirt. Because of the word per here, I know that that's my slope. And since this is a setup fee, that's a starting fee, so that's my y-intercept. So my equation for Daring Designs is going to be 5x plus 50. Okay? Then looking at our graph here, we have to identify our y-intercept and our slope. So I'm going to start with the y-intercept. The y-intercept is right here at 15. Okay, so that's our b is 15. So now I have to pick a point here and count my rise over run. I can see that at 25, it clearly goes through the center again. So I'm going to pick my point. That's over 1, but up from 15 to 25, that's up 10. So that means my slope, which remember is the rise over run, or change in y over change in x, my slope is going to be 10 over 1, which we know we can simplify to 10. Okay, so if I were to write the equation for ImageWorks, my equation is going to be y equals 10x plus 15. So now that we have the two equations, let's answer the first problem here. Which one charges more money per t-shirt? So if I look, remember my per t-shirt cost is my slope. Okay, that's how much it's going to cost my slope. ImageWorks is 10 and Daring Designs is 5. So per t-shirts, ImageWorks is more expensive because they're charging 10 per t-shirt versus 5. So that's what I'm going to write down here. ImageWorks because the slope is higher. And in case I wanted to double check and remember, I know that 10 is greater than 5. Okay? So which company should Bria and Miguel use if they're purchasing 40 shirts? Well, let's find out. We've got to plug in 40 for each of the equations to find out. So let's put it in. So our first equation is y equals 5x plus, I believe it was 50, right? Yep. And our second one, 50. And our second one is y equals 10x plus 15. If I'm ordering 40 shirts, that's going to be my x value. So I need to plug it in for x. So I'm going to do y equals 5 times 40 plus 50. Okay, 5 times 4 is 20, so 5 times 40 is 200. 200 plus 50 is 250. So to purchase from Daring Designs, that's $250. So let's figure out if we're purchasing from ImageWorks. Okay, so we're going to plug it in. So y equals 10 times 40 plus 15. Okay, 10 times 40 is 400 plus 15. 400 plus 15 is 415. So which one is cheaper? ImageWorks. Daring Designs, this first one, right? So they should order from Daring Designs because it's cheaper. And because we know that 250 is less than 415. Okay? All right, let's move on to my next one. So 5 is asking me to write a possible equation that could be for each of these lines. Notice that there's no scale on here, so that means I have to make up the numbers for each of these lines. So we have the letters L, M, N, and P. Okay, so we need possible equations for each of these lines. So I'm going to start with L here. L clearly goes through the origin here, which is 0, 0. That means my y-intercept for L is clearly 0, meaning my b for L is going to be 0. So I'm going to just write this here, and I'm going to say 0. Then I can see my L is going down overall, meaning it has a negative slope. So my M is negative for L. Okay, so that means I need to write an equation that has a negative slope and goes through 0 or doesn't have a y-intercept. So for L, I'm going to write y equals negative. Now it's not going down a whole lot, so I'm just going to do negative x, because that's the same thing as saying negative 1x, and that's not going to decrease a lot. Negative 1x, and then since I don't have a b, I don't have to add any plus anything here. I can leave it right there as y equals negative x. So now let's go to m. M obviously has a b. It's not going through the origin here. It's going to go all the way down here. We're going to have to continue all the way down, and it's going to be a super negative number. So whatever b's number is for m is negative. But m's slope is positive. So I have to write a very low negative number, but a positive slope. It's increasing pretty fast, so I'm going to make a large slope. So I'm going to do y equals, and I'm going to pick any large positive number. I'm going to do 20. 20 is a relatively large positive number, so I'm going to say 20x, and then I have to make a negative number, and it's going to be kind of a large negative number because it's not even on our graph where the y-intercept would be. So I'm going to say negative 1,000. Okay? And there is my equation for m. Again, you didn't have to use the numbers I used. As long as this was a large negative number and this was a large positive number, you were completely accurate. All right, looking at n, we can again see that our b goes through the origin, so our b has to be 0. Now this is a positive line, but not nearly as positive as m, so our slope has to be a little bit of a lower positive number. So I'm going to do y equals, now it's not increasing as much as this one is decreasing. This one's definitely decreasing slower, so it's bigger than 1. So I'm going to say like 5x. And I don't have to include a y-intercept because it goes through 0. And for my last one, p, I can see that my y-intercept is going to be negative. I also can see that my slope is going to be a decently negative number. So I have to pick a decently negative number and a kind of low negative number here. So I'm going to do y equals negative 10x minus, we'll say that's 20. There you go. Again, your numbers didn't have to 100% match mine. They just had to have something that could be kind of similar and could pass for it. All right, let's move on to the next problem. All right, so we're going to go to the next question, and it says, number 6 says, before heading out on a road trip, Diego's family filled up their car's tank with 20 gallons of gas. As they went on, the car used 2.5 gallons of gas every day. Write an equation for the amount of gas y after x days. So we know that they're using gallons of gas a day. So that's like saying per day. So that's my slope, 2.5 per day used. And my y-intercept is how much they started with, which is 20 gallons. So I'm going to do y equals, and since they're using 2.5, that's going to be a negative 2.5, meaning it's going down, it's being used, x, plus the amount we started with, which is 20. Okay, so now I have to graph it, okay, using days as a unit of time. Be sure to label your axes and grid line your numbers. So I'm going to say this is day, or this is gas, and this is days here. Okay, so now in order to graph it, I'm going to figure out how much I have after when I first start, 1 day, 2 days, 3, and I'm going to go to 4 days here. Okay, so this is my x, this is my y. So I know if I haven't gone anywhere, he still has a full tank of gas, he has 20 days. But now let's figure out for 1. So y equals negative 2.5 plus 20, and that's times 1 because x is 1. So negative 2.5 times 1 is negative 2.5 plus 20. 20 plus 2.5, well, let's think about it this way. If I owe you $2.50 and I have 20 in my pocket, I'm still going to have $17.50 at the end of the day. So there's $17.50. Okay, and then if I go here, Now let's do 2 days. Y equals negative 2.5 times 2 plus 20. 2.5 times 2 is negative 5 plus 20, which equals negative 5 plus 20 is going to be 15. Then y equals negative 2.5 times 3 plus 20. Well, 3 times 5 is 15. Carry the 1. Put a decimal in there. 3 times 2 is going to be 6 plus 1 is 7. And so it's going to be negative because it's a negative times positive. So now I'm negative 7.5 plus 20. Well, if I owe you $7.5 and I have 20 in my pocket, I'm going to have 12.5 at the end of the day. So it's 12.5. And then we're going to go to 4, which is y equals negative 2.5 times 4 plus 20. 4 times 5 is 20. Carry the 2. Put a decimal in. 4 times 2 is 8 plus 2 is 10. So that's negative 10 plus 20. If I owe you $10 and I have 20, I have 10 at the end of the day. Okay? So there's where we're at. So now I'm going to go ahead and set up my scale. I'm going to do days in ones. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And I can clearly see that I'm not going to have enough here to get up to 20 on my own. So I'm going to go up by 2.5s. I'm going to do 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10, 12.5, 15, 17.5, 20, 22.5, 25. Okay? I'm going to change my color to make my graph a little bit more obvious. So my first point is at 0, 20. So 0, 20 here. My second point is at 1, 17.5. Then at 2, 15. Then at 3, 12.5. Then at 4, 10. And it's going to keep going. So there is my line right there. All right. Then our final question here says, when did the gas tank empty if Diego's family does not refill? Explain your reasoning. So empty would mean that our y value here is 0. So that's what I'm going to just do. I'm going to plug in 0 for y. I'm going to do 0 equals negative 2.5x plus 20. So now I'm going to solve for x to get my answer. So center of my equation is my equal sign. I'm going to subtract 20 on each side. And so now I have negative 20 is equal to negative 2.5x. Center of my equation is still my equal sign. I'm going to divide by negative 2.5 on each side to find out what my x is. So let's do negative 20 divided by negative 2.5. A negative divided by a negative makes a positive. I'm going to move this over 1 because I can't have a decimal there. So I'm going to move it over. Anything I do to the outside of a division, I have to do the inside. 25 can't go into 2. It can't go into 20. But it can go into 200. 25 times 4 is 100. How do I know that? Well, 4 quarters, which is 25 cents, makes $1. So that means 25 times 8 is going to be 200. So that means x equals 8. At the rate they're going, they could drive for 8 days before their gas tank is out. All right. Hopefully you've checked all your answers and you made sure you know how to solve every single one of these problems. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Make sure you hit submit for feedback. I'll see you tomorrow for the test.